As the Third Reich seized power in Germany and the Nazi Party took control of the nation, pressure would be placed on Jewish communities within Germany from the highest levels of government. Pressure and violence against many Jewish communities would cause a large number of Jews to flee Germany altogether. In 1933, there were 523,000 Jews living in Germany, and they represented less than 1% of the total population. The vast majority of German Jews lived in urban areas and in cities, with nearly one-third of German Jews living in Berlin. With the initial takeover of the Nazis, nearly 38,000 German Jews emigrated from Germany, fleeing to nearby European countries such as France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and others. In 1935, legal mandates against the German Jews would be put into effect with the creation of the Nuremberg Laws. The Nuremberg Laws would strip German Jews of many of their rights and valuables. Wealth was seized, Jews were no longer allowed to intermarry with non-Jews, and they were restricted in areas of work, seeing that some jobs were unfit for Jews. 3 years later, following the annexation of Austria by Germany, emigration from German Jews would rise, especially following the Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass, where Jewish-owned businesses all over Germany were vandalized or destroyed on the nights of November 9th and 10th, 1938. Even though finding a destination to go proved difficult, about 36,000 Jews left Germany and Austria in 1938 and 77,000 in 1939. The flood of refugees caused a crisis among many nations. In July of 1938, President Franklin D. Roosevelt of the United States convened an emergency conference in Evian, France, to handle the situation. Delegates from 32 nations were present, including the United States, Great Britain, Canada, Australia, and France. Despite this, only the Dominican Republic agreed to accept more refugees. Between 1938 and 1939, Great Britain accepted over 10,000 unaccompanied Jewish children on an emergency basis. Farther west, over 309,000 German, Austrian, and Czech Jews applied for sanctuary in the United States, where there were only 27,000 available spots due to the United States immigration quota. An event that was highly publicized and drew major criticism to the United States' handling of Jewish refugees was the handling of the St. Louis. The U.S. refused to admit 900 Jewish refugees that had sailed from Hamburg, Germany. When being denied entry to the United States, the ship was forced to return to Europe with Great Britain, Belgium, France, and the Netherlands all agreeing to take portions of the refugees. Of the 908 passengers on the St. Louis, 608 returned to Europe, and of those 608, only 366 survived the war. It was hard for those immigrating Germany and its occupied territories to find a place to go. Many nations were hesitant or downright refused to accept the refugees, fearing how they would be able to accommodate this new influx of population. In 1944, President Franklin D. Roosevelt of the U.S. was under large amounts of pressure from officials in the American government and from the American Jewish community at large to do something about the crisis that was affecting European Jews. Roosevelt signed an executive order establishing the War Refugee Board to facilitate the rescue of European Jews. The War Refugee Board, with the help of other relief groups, would proceed to assist in the rescue of thousands of Jews in war-torn areas of Europe. In June of that same year, Roosevelt would see that the U.S. Army base Fort Ontario in New York would be used to shelter and house many of the Jewish refugees fleeing the terror in Europe. As an Allied victory brought an end to the terror of the Nazi regime, thousands more liberated Jews held in Nazi concentration camps would come centerfold. Suffering from exhaustion, illness, and torture, these men and women would try to re-enter a world that seemed to not have a place for them. With homes destroyed and families either killed or missing due to the Holocaust, thousands of Jewish men, women, and children would begin to look for a new place to call home. Palestine and the United States would be the most popular destinations for displaced Jews following the war. On December 22, 1945, President Harry Truman created the Truman Directive, allowing visas to displaced persons, a large majority of which were Jewish, into the United States' existing immigration policy.